Well, we reached a little watershed here. Vlad is on his way over from the city to pick up the track bike. Once we do that, we can clear that table off, get some of these parts. Mark's bringing more parts over. There's gas tanks involved in this too. And I can start to work on some of the bigger body panels that need a lot of work. But as of right now, the big thing is just to clear up that bench. Now, I thought I'd share another little tip, since we all have these things in common. This is a chair that used to be Karen and I's chair. We gave it to the kids. And of course, it's an antique. It loosened up in time. And what I did, I used this product. This is something I've had many times. When chairs, these wood chairs get loose, the joints get loose, you can buy it in Lowe's. It's a couple of bucks. And what I did when I'm all done, I wanted to seal that joint up. I just put some, this is just a glue gun glue just to seal it, but that hopefully restored that chair to where we can use it. And it was dangerous before. It used to come apart when you'd sit on it. Now, one thing I'd mention before Vlad gets here, he'll be a while. One of the things in dealing with pearl paint is a unique thing, and it could include other things like flip-flop or candy apple, but this is a great tip, something I learned the hard way many years. So what will happen is these parts are each going to need extensive body work. Then they're going to be sanded, primed, then there'll be a white base coat, then there'll be a pearl coat, and then before we put the trim on, before we put this trim on the bike, what we're going to have to do, and I've learned it the hard way, I'm going to put a coat of clear over it. Because pearl, what happens with pearl, when you put tape on it, it leaves the impression of the tape in the pearl. Or if you put your fingernail in it, the pearl is like a mirror. It shows everything. So the fact that these are pearl white, and I know modern bikes, like there's Ducatis that are pearl white too. But the point is, if you don't know that ahead of time, and you painted the whole thing pearl white, and then you went to put decals on and tape off that stripe, you would be opening up a kettle of worms, or a bucket of fish, or the sharpest bulb in the drawer, or something. When you do pearl, you never sand it, you never do anything until you get at least one good coat of clear on it. Now, these are all the products from years ago when we used to make our own metal flake. We used to make microflake. We used to make our own silver paint. Well, all of this stuff, and this is the pearl silver. I'm not sure if that's even the same, but what you would do years ago is put that in the clear, and that would give it that pearly look. But the modern paint, the two-part, it looks a lot nicer, I think. But I'm still going to use the old school rules of don't get too cute. Now, even Vlad's job, that there's a little bit of pearl in this paint, because I noticed when I was spraying it, I would spray it this way, and then this way, and then this way, if there would be 4 coats. But if you almost have to paint this out in the sunlight to get that it's all even, and that it turned out this is color match paint, and this is a factory part, and you can see that matches pretty good, I think. And this is a part I still have to, Vlad's got to get me the decal. I guess we'll leave this part here. This one's got to be fixed, and I got to figure out about pulling that emblem off and getting that little decal on it. This is a spare part, which, you know, I hope he never needs it, but it's a track bike. You never have too many spare parts on a track bike, that's for sure. Now, last night I read the literature for this bike, and believe me, it was ahead of its time. I remember at one point in time, well, in my case, I wanted an FZR. Well, it took me 20 years to get one, but at the price I was willing to pay. But my FZR is one of the bikes I really do enjoy riding, and I'm sure this one is even better. It's a lighter bike, probably better on 106 type of roads, and that's why we want to spend the time. But to do this paint job right, all of this white, everything that's white, you can't really backmask it or anything. The easiest way to do this is paint the whole thing white. Then paint the whole thing pearl, put a whole coat of clear on. Then we're going to get together with Mark, maybe on a Saturday or something, and cut a pattern out for each one of these bars. Because he has the original bodywork. He's got one set that still has the stripe on it. So he has multiple sets of bodywork for this bike. So this will be, you know, if you're so inclined to like doing this stuff, This will be an interesting, I think a very interesting thing. And having the old well, whatever you want to call it, the paperwork that they used to, when you'd go to a motorcycle dealer, they'd give you this and say, oh, go buy this bike and you'll be the king of the hill. Well, I always thought it was a cool bike, and I always liked the look at a double headlights like a Triumph. So we are now at the point where we got to make the commitment and make this dream come true. Now every once in a while I have to do this. These are all the microfibers. They have to get washed separately. And I use laundry detergent, of course. And I also throw in some simple green. And of course I have about 1,000 of these microfibers. But keeping them clean and always having a bucket of them around, really, really helpful. Now what I do is I just put about 3 times the amount of laundry soap in there. And a little bit of simple green. Wash and dry it separately, and never put one in with the regular wash, and you'll always have a clean bike, assuming you use them. Another great little tip. Now I'm always amazed how clean they come out. And I wanted to mention something too. Some people don't know this, that when you get dirt on a microfiber, it's brown like this, or gray, or whatever color. As long as it's clean, the thing you don't want to have is a little grit of sand in there. That's just as good here as it is here for doing what we do, cleaning motorcycles. But what I always do is when I get one that's really, this one is probably older, I use this for cleaning the wheels or around the chain or whatever. And then keep the ones that are nice and clean like this for, clean the windshield or your face shield or whatever. Or look at that. Oh, I love doing laundry. I love microfibers. So Vlad finally arrives. He's got his box. He's got all his paper and his stuff. Oh my God, look at all these parts. Ah! It's like when you buy a boat, the 2 best days in a boat owner's life, the day you buy it and the day you sell it. That's amazing, but we got to clean up the shop here. We need more room. So it's a great day. We got the chair fixed. We get to see Vlad's new truck. To match his track bike. Oh my God. Definitely not a painting day today. Another windy, cold day. Wow. But we will make some shop room, and by the end of the day, we'll be ready to get back to working on Mark's project. Vlad likes Mark's bike so much he's going to take some of the parts and put them in his bike. Mark, if any of your parts are missing, Vlad put them in the bag.
It's going to be my fault.
Oh my God, look at this. You're like a gypsy with these parts. They're all wrapped up. What are you, like you murdered your wife and you're putting a bot? Maybe there's some dead people in that box too.
Hey, it's enough space to put the dead people in.
Yeah, I know. Say goodbye to the Suzuki now. Until the first time I have to repair it again. I'll put the hex on them. So how many of these trucks do you have?
What is it?
You had a black one last time, or is this the same one?
No, it's the same one.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I had a Denali, which I sold for this.
Well, you know, Glenn just got a new truck.
Yeah,
Look like the same thing, in
No,
fact.
I got a crew cab, he got a double cab.
Okay, what does that mean? This is bigger?
I have a full size 4-door.
Oh, and his is a half.
Yeah.
Like Luciano's is a half.
Yeah, because...
And this is what, a Dodge?
same thing he got.
Whoa, look at this, a Hemi. Whoa. You should get that on your motorcycle.
Yeah, see? The difference is, I got a full back over here.
Yeah, I looked in there before when I was taking parts out.
Like,
Beautiful.
much shorter on the inside.
Yeah, and there's more room in the back, right?
Yeah, but I put the stuff.
I saw, yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm not worried about not having.
Looks like you got the same wheels he has, the fancy wheels.
Yeah, I think
Wow,
he doesn't have a
nice.
sport. He has a different model because he has a chrome grill.
Well, he's got more money than you.
Yes.
And he's younger, that's even worse. I hate to say goodbye to the Suzuki, but till we see you again. Well, yeah, there's no track days for another month, so at least I won't see you for a month. That's nice. I like that. That's beautiful. Now, what do you do? That thing goes right over the top? Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Put a bungee cord on that. You're all set, boy.
It's not going anywhere.
It's nice to know people with money. Yes, there's only 2 days that matter. The day Vlad brings the Suzuki here and the day he takes it home. Good luck with the track bike. Okay, our newly organized workbench. And we're just waiting for the baby to get here, and another friend that has some work to do on his motorcycle. Not sure if he's going to make it today. We're certainly going to find out. But I thought while I'm waiting, I may as well get started sanding one of the extra parts. And we basically very soon are going to have one complete set of primed up parts. And I hope by then, and Mark will be able to come down and we can shoot some white paint, that white pearl, and see what it looks like. Looking forward to seeing it. And boy, you have no idea, Vlad really liked this bike. Mark, when you go to sell it, Vlad said he'll trade you his Bomoda. Now, as I take the microfibers out of the dryer, and again, they have to be dried, should be dried separately. I always think, as labor intensive as it is to keep a bike clean, to me it's so worth it. And this is probably the single biggest factor. The only thing I would not put in the laundry is anything that's got diesel fuel on it. That I would just basically throw away. And these things are so cheap now, it doesn't even pay to try to salvage them. Now, while we're waiting for our other guests to get here, I guess I can get some work done on this, maybe even get it primed. You never know. But one thing I never do in the shop is waste time. So the first part, of course, and we do this all the time, get all the dirt off it. I see Mark has fixed some of these issues. This will be, we'll just sand it down, maybe run some sanding block over that a little bit. And of all things, it's not even raining out there. We've been so used to having it rain the last couple days. Before I do anything, I'd like to get this as clean as possible. And you never can be too clean with this stuff. Never. Especially on the inside, because here's what happens. You pick the part up to paint it, you touch in here, and then you touch out there. And then you wonder why the paint didn't stick, or why you have fish eyes, or whatever. Anyway, we are trying to get a lot done today. Looks like we're going to get a lot done too. I'm always optimistic. And I'm always aware of the fact to try to be efficient about using my time, since time is limited. And when I do have some extra time, I like to spend it with my grandson, or pretending I'm Valentino Rossi. Neither one of which are real productive. But the Suzuki project, now that it's out of here, just gives me a little breathing room to work on all of the parts of this job, which look like this is going to be a very, very extensive, labor-intensive job. There's going to be a lot of paint backmasking. I hope Mark is ready to make some patterns. I'm sure he is. And on a day like today, when you start to see some progress on a job, and I see one job go out, another one may be coming in here soon, well, everybody's got a project. And we're coming up on a riding season, so I hope everybody's going to get their projects done in plenty of time. And again, we just need to scuff this up. Make sure it's dull before we get the primer. Actually, it'll be a pleasure painting outside with the wind not blowing today. The wind wasn't bad before. Anyway, just getting the whole part scuffed up is the next step. Now, this is a tip you can put in the bank. There's this glue residue from what was a sticker. Now, the real paint job on this, well, if you bought this bike new, there was that stripe, what Yamaha racers refer to as ladders, that was not painted on. That was a decal. Now, even if you could buy that decal new now, it'd be a fortune. So, and it wouldn't be nowhere near as nice as if you painted on. But before we do anything, we got to get all this glue residue off. And this is just a rag soaked with acetone. The acetone seems to be cutting that glue. Sometime it does, sometime it doesn't. If it doesn't, then we got to sand it off. But this looks like it might be coming off pretty easily. I'm never really sure. There's always little spots that just seem to defy gravity here. There we go. So, getting all that crap off. Because now that we have the deck clear, we should be able to make some real progress on this job. But we don't want to go over any glue. Now I see there's still some spots in it. It's tenacious stuff. And if you paint over it, it's a problem. In fact, I saw somebody's bike. This is a true thing. It was an old Suzuki. And they had painted right over the glue from the old emblems. And as time went by, the glue started releasing and made a mess. And the last thing, of course, once all the glue is off, is just to get some sandpaper and soapy water. And what I've been doing too is, because these parts are kind of gringy and greasy and everything, I've been adding a few drops of simple green to the water that I sand with. I normally wouldn't do that. Doesn't seem to hurt anything though. Just as a way to get some of the gringe and groot and whatever. Who knows what's on these parts. Old bikes, there's always monsters inside the fairing. Rodan is hiding in there. But basically now, where we had the glue, that part is fine, and we can move on to most important thing, get all the edges radiused, get everything roughed out, and it'll be ready for primer. Now, as I'm getting toward the end of this, I'm ready to do the final wipe down. It's been wiped a few times with Prepsol, but you never can over wipe it, that's for sure. And you know what I always get a kick out of is, at the end of the week, I usually get a case of paper towels every week down at BJ's. We do our shopping once a week. I get the case of Bounty, and at the end of the week, I'm always out of towels. I don't know what happens. Then I look at the video and I say, wow, they go like water. You really do, but to do this job right, it's so important to get the part clean. It doesn't have to be all sexy and pretty, but it had better be clean. And you just have to convince yourself, or just bite the bullet more or less, that what you have to do is throw those paper towels away and get on with it. And we're going to be ready here for another wipe down. And anytime you try to, there's certain things you say, wow, you know, Prepsol is expensive, paper towels are expensive, and then you wind up wasting $200 worth of paint that peels off the parts. So it's really not, it's just like building a house. You've got to get the foundation right. You've got to get this layer of paint, that initial primer. And by the way, primer is only there. We don't use it as a self-leveling agent. It's only there as to promote adhesion. And anytime I've ever used any other products beside that self-etching primer, I've always come back to the self-etching primer. By the way, another good little tip, I just put some Prepsol and get a Q-tip at the very end to get in all these low lighting areas where a rag doesn't really reach, down in all the little valleys. And I notice I am getting stuff out of there, so the trick is, as I always say, just keep doing it until the Q-tips or the towels come out clean. And every little low-lying valley, that's where paint is going to be very prone to peeling up. Now that part is as clean as I'm going to be able to get it, ready to go outside and prime it. This is always the primer I find to be the best. It's also probably the least expensive as a side benefit. It has another characteristic that I like. Some of the high-end primers that I've used always clog the nozzle. They must be very thick. This goes on nice and thin. As far as I can tell, I've never had an issue with the paint not sticking, and the purpose of this primer is to just be a bond between the etched surface. And I think it does that pretty well. Well, Rust-Oleum's a big company too. I don't think they would be selling a lot of stuff if it wasn't good. But this is turning out to be an amazing day, but I'm really happy that Vlad really liked the Suzuki, the final outcome of that. I hope he'll send me some pictures of it all put together. The idea is to get it on. If you're going to put more than one coat on, let it dry. In the best of all worlds, let it dry overnight, but that is a good quality primer. I'm guessing that's as good as it gets. Now we still don't have the gas tank for this job. I have one more panel so that I have a complete set of bodywork. But then I do need the gas tank, and of course Mark's still working on that. Now this other piece is going to need a little more preparation, sanding. I see there's a couple of spots where it's been repaired already, some spots at the back. But once I get that part done, see, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to make a complete bike in prime, except for the gas tank. And then all these extra parts, because I'm not sure we're going to have enough of that pearl paint. Pearl paint usually requires 3 thick coats. It may be he's got to buy more paint. I don't know if he wants to buy it, because the paint is really expensive for this job. But I know we have enough to do one set of bodywork here. Again, it's all I'm trying to do here is maximize the amount of the bang for the buck that we get on this. And believe me, that stripe on the original bike was a big sticker. If you got that on even the least little bit crooked, man, is that going to look? It's going to look like a beautiful woman with no front teeth. This fairing piece has all the reinforcements in it. And but before we do anything, before I even start doing some final sanding on this and doing some body work, first step is always get the simple green on there, let it soak a few minutes. You don't see it on the video, but I always let it soak a little bit. At least the first one, it's always best because you can see how much stuff would come out of there. And in this case, because I know the back, especially the side where the chain usually runs through, there's always some up under there. You can see monsters coming out of there. And we may as well just go get another roll of paper towels out, because we gotta, that's gotta be degreased totally before we do body work. Now I've heard, and some people have told me that they use a power washer to do some of this. Well, you probably could. I have a power washer, but simple green is just so good at getting grease to where it just disappears, and it's a question of just using up hundreds and hundreds of paper towels until once those towels start coming out clean, boy, you could choke from the smell of this. Now, I found the lemon, I don't like the smell of the lemons. Karen does, so guess what? We're going to use lemon from now on. If any conflict of interest here, Karen gets the final say on stuff like that, that's for sure. And God bless her, she's kept me alive over 25 years now. All right, so we're going to just move on to getting that 3 or 4 times until those paper towels come out a lot cleaner than that. And there's certainly some areas on here that are really rough. Before I start that area, let me show something. This is one of those cracks that I said it just gets worse if you don't fix it, but I see Mark has already fixed it. Now it's looking like maybe it's our lucky day here. We're going to get both parts primed today before the end of this session. You never really know. But just getting this far, even just getting this body work done. And Mark did this body work up here with JB Weld, so I wasn't so happy, wasn't so sure that was going to be easy to sand, but with the power sander it went right away. If I had a sand that by hand, it would have taken hours. The power sander is just beautiful when it comes to sanding through JB Weld. And JB Weld makes great bodywork, by the way, but it's a bitch to sand. That's the only downside is, and this here, as you can see, that's some intense bodywork there. And by the way, Mark did that, so if it doesn't look right in the final job, he's to blame. We'll blame him. No, we got one drying up, one soon to be drying up. Actually, we're getting a lot done in this session. I'm really surprised. Pretty good work day, I don't say so myself. Now I always like to, toward the end of a session, check out how everything's drying up. In this case, wow, drying up nice. I see this part where Mark did the body work with JB Weld. We'll need a little red lead or a little Bondo or something, no big deal. This little spot you don't even see, so I'm not even going to worry about it. But everything else, all the surfaces look pretty nice. They come out pretty nice, and wow, it just couldn't be much nicer of a day. Wow. And every one of these bikes has a unique story. I always say this. And you know what? This bike of Mark's is starting the first part of its story right now.